everybody. Welcome to MUFC Red Devil NCR. We have with us Dhruv, Priyan, and Prisham. Priyan and Prisham happen to be from United Star. Thank you guys for joining. And we also have Siam and AB. AB is the usual devil in suspect with me. So, what we're going to be doing within these next 10 to 15 minutes is talk about how the 2020 calendar year, so to speak, was for United. Yes, so let's get straight into it. And I'll put the first question out to Priyan and Prasham that if we were to divide 2020 into three segments, and not surprisingly enough, it's going to be Bruno centric because fortunately or unfortunately, that's what United have been about this entire 12 months. So we're going to be doing the first video on the initial Bruno phase when he signed for us. The second would be the Bruno effect in the post-lockdown, that we had about 10 to 12 games, including the Europa, and then the current season that we are currently under. So, Priyan and Prasham, so how do you think the early part of 2020 was?
I think we ended 2020 on a very poor note. We had that loss to Burnley, the 2-0 loss.
And sorry, 2019.
And the team morale was very low, and we weren't seem to be going in the right direction. And I think Oli also was sort of out of ideas. He didn't know what to do. We had very little creativity. We had difficulty breaking down defenses with breaking down the low blocks. And then came Bruno, almost like a godsend for United. Somehow we were able to break down defenses. Somehow he was able to play the killer pass. And his impact has been almost Cantona-esque. It's been we've been so good after. There have been matches where you could say due to exhaustion or due to fatigue, we've lost the three semi-finals that we lost. But otherwise, Bruno's been phenomenal, and he's helped United take a level up. He's taken United himself, like what you could say. And yeah, it's been a good. At least the first 1/3 was pretty good, thanks to Bruno.
Right. So Prasham, what difference did you actually feel? Yes, Bruno came in, and so what was the difference prior to him and then him coming along?
So, Mojo, I think that, it's a very cliche term, new year, new me, right? But like with Man United, it was almost very evident that it was true. Because as soon as Bruno came in, not only did Bruno lift, I feel the other players around him lifted as well. Marcus Rashford, before that, was carrying the team on his own, you could say. And he also was missing many chances in the first half. If you remember, we were getting a lot of goals through penalties. Rashford was putting the penalties in 1-1 draws, 1-0 wins, 2-1 defeats. That is sort of becoming the norm. And it was inevitable that when a small team plays us, they will play the low block and we won't be able to break it down because either half our team was injured, we were playing Lingard and Pereira, or, well, Rashford couldn't do it all on his own. Martial was injured, Pogba was injured, and if he played, he didn't bother. So I think Bruno Fernandes sort of lifted the likes of Rashford, Greenwood, and Martial as well. So I think that also made a very big difference. Suddenly, they felt like, there was someone they could rely on and they weren't carrying all the weight on their shoulders. Along with that, I think for that brief period, he also sort of felt like he wanted to play for United and he felt like there was some purpose. So I think that gave us more drive in the midfield as well. And I think the most telling moment was the last game before lockdown where he played that chip pass over Martial and Martial scored, and then McTominay, obviously. But that game really defined us a lot because we didn't play that game as second fiddle to Man City or on the counter as we've done under Mourinho or under Van Gaal. We actually were the better team on that day, hands down. It wasn't like, we nicked and City dominated us. And that, I think, is the stark difference before what Priyan said against 2-0 against Burnley. We seemed lost. But against City, we dominated, we imposed ourselves on that game. And I think a large part was down to Bruno, and it showed his presence of mind. McTominay is just that goal. And that was almost the best way you could have ended football, so to speak. Obviously, there is no good way to end football, but there couldn't have been a better way with that last image in our mind. So I think Bruno not only gave the lift, but he improved the players around him as well. And I think that was the biggest impact he had.
Right. So Dhruv, coming to you, like Priyan and Prasham have said that Bruno came in, gave us a lift, charged up the team. What else did you notice in terms of Bruno signing and how United went on from there?
I have a very different point of view on this. I never thought we actually ended the 2019 year on a bad note. For me, Rashford was in the form of his life, but he got injured. So basically,
Right.
what we were missing was a feeder. So
Right.
Martial was playing his natural game. So we defeated City. We were a little inconsistent. With Bruno coming in, we got that feeder. So Bruno came in. Obviously, he lifted United to a greater level. But for me, Ighalo was also very important signing at that time because he started in couple of games for us in the Europa League at that time. So with Ighalo also coming in, he also played a huge role in the City Derby, which we played. He was the one who just flicked the ball to Fred, which eventually led to McTominay's goal. So Bruno obviously is the biggest signing for United at the moment. But with that, I think with Bruno's incoming, the team also got back in form, and Rashford was also back after the lockdown. So with Bruno as well as other players all made a impact, and in 2020, Ole actually got a style of play for United. Before that we were playing inconsistent football. Now we are not playing inconsistent football. We are playing attacking football. We are losing games on our defense. That's a point. But at least we are playing a same kind of football, a typical football in the matches.
Okay. I mean, so that's, I mean, three fascinating viewpoints that, in a way, Bruno came in and stabilized the ship. In a way, Bruno came in and charged everybody up. And in a way, Bruno came in and provided that feeder, which United were definitely missing because, God behold, I mean, we were depending on the likes of Lingard and Pereira to try and create the goal scoring opportunities for Martial and for Rashford. Um, but there are other aspects which I believe Bruno brought to us. Sam Bhai, what's your opinion upon that?
Sir, what my opinion is that December last 2019, it gave us a very good, you know, thing that we got Bruno in Jan. Okay, with coming of Bruno, we the inconsistency we had, that was long gone.
Hmm.
I remember his first game was against Wolves.
Yes.
We could see that in the game that our gameplay has suddenly changed a lot. From a
Hmm.
typical counter-attacking team, we began to feed passes to our front man, and suddenly we can see our midfield.
Right.
So Bruno was the connecting link we were missing for a long time. See, we
Right.
had Pogba in our lineup for a long, long time. But Pogba is sort of inconsistent. We all know he's a great, great, great player, but a misfit. We all know that. I won't say anything, but Bruno is the connecting link for us. That I would say he has the same impact as many greats and many players have had for us, especially Cantona. You would remember that for sure.
Right.
So yeah, we can connect Bruno to Cantona. He had the same impact, and I'm sure we'll get more further with this.
Right, right. I mean, I kind of totally agree with what you say and what Priyan had said as well in terms of Bruno being almost Cantonesque, so to speak. And the reason why I say that is because I was lucky enough to watch my first ever game at Old Trafford. If I recall correctly, it was January of 1993. And the precise date would be around the 9th or the 10th of January, if I recall it. And we were playing Spurs and we beat them 4-1. And typical of United, we scored three goals in I think about 6 to 7 minutes, and Cantona scored one of them. And if you can go and find the YouTube highlights for it, the movement of the entire team in and around Cantona, how Cantona was used as central figure for all the passing and the goal to be scored. It's very much like how Bruno moves around currently. So if I was to classify it, what Bruno has brought to the team, and if it has to be in parallels with Cantona, he brings a leadership. He brings the guile in terms of how to move the ball forward. He brings certain level of maturity in terms of helping some of his teammates figure out where they should be in terms of moving off the ball. And definitely, without a doubt, he plays for the badge, which a lot of players that we've signed over the last 6 or 7 years post Sir Alex haven't really turned up. If I was to throw some data points at you where we were as a club before Bruno came in, I mean, on the 1st of January in 2020, we were sitting, I think, on 8th position in the league. We had about 25-ish points.
24
and
points.
24 points or 25, whatever it was, and we had played 18 games. That basically translates into 1.3 or 1.4 points per game. We weren't scoring. I think we were 17th or 18th in the league in terms of chances created. We were conceding goals, but thankfully not as much as we've conceded this season. But there was definitely a lack of creativity across the entire team. And that's where, if you compare it, that the team that started against Burnley, the match which created the entire furore in entire United, wherein unfortunately, Ed Woodward's house was attacked, and there were some protest marches across Old Trafford, etc. Our midfield included Pereira, Dan James, and we took off Dan James to bring on Lingard, and we were chasing a game at 2-0. So that basically tells you where we were against Burnley, which led to fans walk out from 75th minute onwards. I have been going to Old Trafford by the God's grace since 1993, and I've never seen fans leave in the 75th minute. That's the first time I've seen that happen in 30 years, 27 years rather. Fans were leaving. Ed Woodward's house was attacked. There were protest marches, and everything was in a complete mess. That brings me quickly to one last question for this video, and that I'll ask AB for it. Go back to the summer of 2019 for a minute. Harry Maguire was signed at the last moment because Eric Bailly got injured. You basically had Smalling and Jones as your preferred centre backs, and Smalling was already rooting for a move away from the club. And we signed Harry Maguire. Let's move forward to December of 2019, when you had Pogba injured, when you had Pereira and Lingard create nothing, and then you had McTominay, who had been sprinkling goals somewhere here or there and in a decent form, and he got injured. So suddenly you had a zero midfield, and then the Bruno signing became an absolute necessity. Do you think United are actually responding to injury crisis before they realize that the squad needed reinforcements?
I guess yes, you made a great point because whenever we have some injury to our key player who is playing in the starting 11, and then only our management is reacting the way they should have reacting in a different way. Like because Bruno, we were almost close to signing in the 2019 summer, but somehow Ed again didn't agree to the terms what the Sporting Lisbon team was asking to, and they didn't make any agreement because we needed one midfielder, so he had to pay 10 to 15 million pounds extra, I would believe, because that was some emergency signing for Manchester United. But if Bruno have come in 2019 summer, our season would have been a different story altogether from the July itself, August itself, I was saying 2019. We would have been competing for not a title, I would say, but yes, top two or top three, we would have been easily there. We shouldn't have been in the last day of the season. We should not have been, I would say, qualifying for the Champions League spot when the Leicester game became so important for us on the last day. But yes, you have made a great point that United management does make or react on the way when they had to, because it's a now emergency situation in the United's team. So we all know how our we don't want to comment, and we don't want to get our moods moods go haywire at this point of time when we are doing great.
Right. I mean, so look, just to quickly round off the immediate reaction of how United as a club started moving post we signed Bruno. I guess the problem started from the summer of 2019, which AB you rightly pointed out, that we basically signed Aaron Wan-Bissaka, we signed Harry Maguire, and we signed Dan James. Dan James at that point in time wasn't a requirement. I don't know why did we bring him on board and waste 18 million for. But then he was a recommendation by Giggs, and so I think Ollie took that up and we signed him. But if you look at it, I'll quickly round off why Bruno made such an impact. I think we had draws up until January of 2020. We had drawn with Wolves, Southampton, Sheffield, Villa, Everton. That's 5 teams. And we had lost to Crystal Palace, West Ham, Newcastle, Watford, Burnley. That's 10 games in the Premier League where you have lost points to teams which you would usually be assured to be winning against. I mean, let's be honest. Nobody expected West Brom to pull out a rabbit from the hat against Liverpool in the last round of fixtures. But you're dropping points against the likes of West Ham, Crystal Palace, Newcastle, Burnley, Watford. You're actually losing to them. Teams you will probably beat in your sleep, and that was primarily because you're not creating much. Our our points per game was atrocious. We were probably sitting on the worst points tally after 18 games in our entire Premier League history in December of 2019. And that's when Bruno came in. Things started improving. And in our next particular segment, when we cover the 2020 as a calendar year for Manchester United, we will talk about the actual effect that Bruno had in games, what he brought to the table in terms of the gameplay, and how United started improving in terms of scoring goals or the complete threat on the counter or throughout its gameplay when Pogba, Bruno, and the likes of Greenwood, Martial, and Rashford started playing together in the post-lockdown phase. So yeah, we'll be back with the post Bruno and in the post-lockdown discussion shortly. So Dhruv, Sayam, Prasham, and Priyan and AB, do join me for that as well. And we'll see you there quickly. Take care, guys.